Estás viendo BronxNet. Tu voz, tu opinión, tu visión. Las opiniones expresadas en este programa son exclusivamente de los participantes y de ninguna manera reflejan las opiniones de BronxNet o sus patrocinadores.
On this edition of Dialogo Abierto, we welcome Brian Saad, the Executive Director of Friends of the Woodlawn Cemetery, as we discuss the Friends of Woodlawn Cemetery in the Bronx and examine the history that this final resting place for some very prominent historical figures presents. So stay tuned. All this and much more is headed your way on this edition of Dialogo Abierto.
Me gustó.
Te felicito.
A lo largo de 50
Nunca olvidar de dónde vienes.
Muy bien.
Muchas inspiración. Orgullosa de integridad.
Hola y buenas a todos. Soy Ramón Rodríguez y ustedes están viendo una edición de Diálogo Abierto, un programa para la comunidad hispana donde información necesaria se provee y donde le pedimos que se puedan involucrar desde sus casas. Today is April 18th, and remember that we want to hear from you, so send us an email at dialogoabierto@bronxnet.org or call us at 718-960-7241. Also, remember that you can find this episode and past episodes at BronxNet.org. And so here we are, welcoming Brian Saad of Friends of the Woodlawn Cemetery here in the Bronx. Brian, thank you for taking time to be with us and to share what I anticipate is going to be some very unique and informative comments that you will give us to tell us about not only Friends of the Woodlawn Cemetery, but of the cemetery itself.
But thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. Well, let's start, if you can take us back to the beginnings of the Woodlawn Cemetery.
Well, I wasn't there.
You weren't?
But it was, Woodlawn was established in 1863 at the height of the peak of the Civil War.
Okay.
And it is it just received last year the National Historic Landmark status designation.
Which is a very big deal.
Which is a huge deal. And it has such rich resources, and it's such a significant institution.
And what, if anything, does the designation as a national landmark bring to the cemetery and or the surrounding area?
Well, it brings recognition. There's only 6 other National Historic Landmark designations in the Bronx, so we're thrilled to be a part of that and to bring more recognition of the significance of the Bronx.
Can you share with us what some of the others are? You know?
Good question. You could go online and I'm sure and find those out. But the Poe House, the Poe Cottage is one, and
okay.
Wave Hill, I think, is another one.
Wave Hill,
and so
okay,
there's
in Riverdale.
Right. So there's a couple of them around.
And we have 6 of them.
Six of them in the Bronx. That's right.
That's terrific. Yeah. So, Friends of Woodlawn Cemetery. Mm-hmm. How did it start? Why did it start? And basically, what is its primary mission?
Well, the Woodlawn Cemetery is we're going to be celebrating its 150th anniversary next year.
Next year, okay.
In 2013. And it has such significant and rich resources. It's significant in architecturally. It has one of the most significant collections of mausoleums in the country. And some very famous architects have built these mausoleums. McKim Eden White, Stanford White, John Russell Pope, James Gamble Rogers, the list goes on and on. It's significant in its open space, its environment. It's 400 acres, half the size of Central Park, and it has a significant collection of trees. There are 6, and probably in counting, great trees of New York in Woodlawn, in
wow.
one 400. It's very impressive.
Oak trees, I take it?
Well, there is a big oak. There is a number of large beech trees. There's a very large weeping beech tree, which is one of the great trees of New York. There is a very huge linden tree, and it's beautiful, especially in late May and June when it's flowering and the smell is just wonderful. There's an umbrella pine tree. It's very rare, but and it's the size of it is very rare. And there's a cutleaf beech tree, which is enormous. So it's significant environmentally, it's significant architecturally. The art, the sculptures, and the stained glass windows is very significant. And of course, it's significant culturally. We have some very prominent personalities, persons that are buried there.
And we're going to get to that, but let me just ask about these significant trees.
Right.
For example, I would imagine that given their presence, the significance of the trees themselves, although the common person may not readily identify them as such, but would it be unreasonable to assume that some very prominent personalities may in fact be interred either near or very close to some of these prominent trees?
Well, yes. The weeping beech tree, that's a great tree in New York, is on the lot of Jay Gould. Now, Jay Gould was back, he was an industrialist, and he was considered the most hated man in America at the time because he was very wealthy and ruthless in his business.
He was a one-percenter, in other words.
He was definitely a one-percenter, that's right. Well, there is a weeping beech on his lot, which is the largest lot in the cemetery.
Okay.
That you can walk under. A whole group of 20 can walk under, and just be surrounded by this weeping beech. It is actually very spectacular, and it's quite
now,
a space.
another fact that you threw out, which really helps to put it in perspective for me, and I certainly hope for our viewing audience as well. You mentioned that the 400 acres that Woodlawn Cemetery sits on is half the size of Central Park.
Half the size
Frankly,
of Central Park.
I didn't realize that Central Park was 800 acres. I thought really that it was greater than that. But yeah, 400 acres, half the size of Central Park, certainly puts it in perspective for New Yorkers, of course, who undoubtedly will have passed through, walked through, got on a little rowboat on one of the lakes at Central Park.
Right.
It certainly helps to put it in perspective that half of that would be Woodlawn Cemetery.
That's not a small piece of property either. So.
No, not at all. And as we were talking before the show, actually, Woodlawn Cemetery, where it is, that section of the Bronx, in 1863, was not recognized, known as, identified as the Bronx as we know it today.
Well,
it was part of...
It was part of Westchester County.
Exactly.
That's right. So there is such rich significance for the Woodlawn. And so the Friends of Woodlawn was established end of 1999, 2000, to raise the visibility and raise awareness of Woodlawn Cemetery. And I get into trouble.
Why is that?
Because I usually refer to the Woodlawn Cemetery as just Woodlawn, because it is, to me and to many people, it's much more than a cemetery. Of course, it's a sacred place, and it's a place, contemplation and respect. But it also is a major cultural institution. And so when I came on board 2.5-3 years ago, my mission was to bring more people, to open up the cemetery and have more people experience these significant and rich resources. And so what we try to do at Friends is to have a diverse set of programming, so people can come and experience the wonders of Woodlawn.
Now, is it an active cemetery still today?
It is an active cemetery, and
for our viewing audience, just explain what an active cemetery means.
we're still selling burial spaces, and wouldn't it be great And it's just wonderful to think that you could be a stone's throw away, buried, you could be a part of history, basically. You could be buried a stone's throw away from Mayor LaGuardia, or Duke Ellington, Miles Davis, Lionel Hampton, or the great Queen of Salsa, Celia Cruz.
Okay. And is Babe Ruth buried there?
No.
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 Okay.
Well, not unfortunately, but Babe
No.
Ruth is not there.
I thought that I may have heard that he was. Are any of the
But
Yankee greats
we had
buried there?
none of the Yankee greats, but Dan Topping, who was
sure,
the
who was
owner,
one of the owners, sure, in the 70s.
In the 70s, of that,
Yeah.
he's buried there.
Matter of fact, I think he either bought it from CBS or sold it to CBS.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
And I'm not, I mean, admittedly, and I know that my viewers may say, how could that be? I'm not a Yankee fan. At my age, I grew up rooting at the time, just as an anecdotal piece of information here, I grew up at the time rooting for one of the other New York teams that were here then in the 50s, and that was the New York Giants.
That's right.
Who played, coincidentally, across the river
That's right.
from the Yankees, and from Yankee Stadium, over at the old Polo Grounds, which is now, of course, a public housing area and has been since probably around 1959, 1960 or so, after they raised the Polo Grounds and built this public housing complex. So that, again, for our viewers, Woodlawn Cemetery still active, still accepting, folks that are now no longer with us, have gone on to the next life, if you will. Right. And I would imagine that they offer a variety of services, not only from underground burial, but
cremation, and niches and community mausoleums. That's correct.
Right. Okay. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more information on the Friends of Woodlawn and Woodlawn Cemetery that we can learn about this great place here in the Bronx. We'll be right back.
Your education is the key to your future. And if you're a high school student, your next stop is college. A college education gives high school graduates a competitive advantage professionally and financially. Without it, your job opportunities are much more limited. A college diploma is a necessary requirement for any successful tomorrow. So make sure you're prepared. Speak to your guidance counselor. Visit your local colleges. Your education is the key to your future.
Suis la cadence, ondule bien tes hanches au bal du dimanche. Danse, que la fête commence. Dans ma belle robe blanche, je suis ton chou.
You didn't give up on sex? Don't give up on birth control either. There are more methods than you think. Find yours at bedsider.org.
Suis la cadence, ondule bien tes hanches au bal du dimanche. Danse, que la fête commence. Dans ma belle robe blanche, je suis ton chou.
You didn't give up on sex? Don't give up on birth control either. There are more methods than you think. Find yours at bedsider.org.
Coming home can be hard if you're a veteran of Iraq or Afghanistan. You may feel like you're all alone. But you're not alone. At iava.org, your fellow vets are all around you. Join our free online community, get the resources you need, and connect to other vets who know where you're coming from. iava.org. We've got your back.
Welcome back to our show. Today we have Brian Saad, the Executive Director of Friends of the Woodlawn Cemetery, who is going to tell us a little more about some of the upcoming events and tours at the cemetery. And for our Spanish-speaking audience, solamente quería informarle a todos ustedes, televidentes de habla español, que hemos estado aquí hasta ahora platicando con el señor Saad, director ejecutivo de una asociación nombrada Amigos de Woodlawn, del cementerio de Woodlawn. Algunos de ustedes posiblemente conocerán al cementerio como uno de los cementerios más grandes aquí del condado del Bronx, que tiene un historial muy interesante desde que se inició este lugar para depositar en realidad los restos de aquellos queridos para enterrarlos ahí en el 1863, preparándose para el año que viene, cuando van a observar el 150 años de su formación en el 1863. Como ustedes algunos sabrán, entre todos los personajes y aquellos difuntos que se encuentran enterrados en este cementerio, entre ellos una de las más famosas personales que están enterradas en este cementerio es la reina de la salsa, sin duda, Celia Cruz. Seguimos aquí nuestra conversación para informarle más de algunos eventos que se aproximan en el cementerio, de cuales ustedes posiblemente puedan tomar ventajas y participar en ellos. So, back to our conversation, and let's talk a little bit about the relationship that Woodlawn Cemetery has to another observation, if you will, that we had in commemorating the disaster on April 14th, 1912, right. And that was, of course, the sinking of the unsinkable Titanic, and what relationship that has to the Woodlawn Cemetery.
Well, the Woodlawn has 12 persons who either drowned on the Titanic or survived the Titanic disaster. That's the most of any cemetery outside of Halifax. And we have...
Halifax, Nova Scotia?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And we have Isidore and Ida, I know...
Guggenheim?
No, Strauss.
Strauss, sure. The founders of Macy's.
Well, not the founders. They owned Macy's. R.H. Macy was the founder,
okay.
But he sold it. And at the time of his death, Isidore Strauss and Ida Strauss, they owned Macy's. They were the S and A&S department store. And they were famously, what I've learned over the past couple of weeks, what's true, Isidore wanted to give his seat. He wanted his wife to go, wanted to give his seat, and his wife turned to him and said, I've been with you for 47 years, and I'm not going anywhere without you. So they both perished on
It was a very moving piece of information when I heard it, and as was, of course, as were a lot of the stories that came about now as we commemorated the 100th anniversary of that disaster. And as a matter of fact, I'm not certain if it was the Strausses or the Guggenheims who recognized what was about to happen to that ship after it hit the iceberg, and actually were dressed or got dressed in tuxedo and formal dress for her, and basically decided to take a seat on one of the decks and simply await their ending. So I don't know if it was the Strausses or the Guggenheims. I know it was certainly a couple of the passengers that were in the first class cabins, as opposed to stowage, or steerage, I should say. And it was just fascinating.
Well, it is fascinating, and there's just so many of those types of stories that it lives on because of course, the movie, but also because of everything, all of the wonderful commemorative events that are happening this month. Those stories live on. It's keeping those stories alive.
My terrific producer is telling me it was the Guggenheim.
It was.
Okay. Which, of course, a very famous museum here now bears their name.
Sure.
And another piece of information that came out as we commemorated this tragedy, really, was that Christine Quinns, the Speaker of the City Council, her grandmother was a survivor.
Oh, I did not know that.
Of the Titanic. Yes. And but she actually was one of those who spoke very little about that. She was 9 years old, and she lived, I think, to 102, and spoke very little about that until very late in her life. So there's another connection, and who knows? I don't know. She herself may be buried at Woodlawn.
I don't think so.
Okay.
But there are a number of there are 12. And another one is Archibald Gracie IV, who was the hero. He was on the ship.
Yes.
He was here. He saved dozens and dozens of lives, and he wrote about it later on.
Yes, and actually, for our viewers, the mayor's residence
Gracie
of
Mansion.
New York City
That's correct.
is named after Archibald Gracie, there on the banks of the East River.
That's right. Now, a shameless plug, if I may.
Absolutely.
Sunday, April 29th, we're going to have the Woodlawn's commemorative event, Titanic commemorative event, with Dr. Joseph Edgett, who's an expert, a folklorist and an expert on the Titanic, and it'll be a lecture and a tour of we're going to visit all 12
the burial grounds.
That's right.
Oh, wow.
And then a little reception. So
And
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock on Sunday?
On Sunday.
April 29th.
29th, that's right.
And
so go online for more details.
Is it free to the public?
Well, it's $15 a person, $10 for seniors, students, and Friends members.
And that includes just the lecture, the tour.
It includes a lecture, tour, and a reception.
And a reception.
Following, yes.
Outstanding. So it's 1 to
reception.
what? 1 to 3?
1 to 4.
1 to 4.
3 hours.
That's wonderful. Para ustedes televidentes de habla español, nos indica el señor Saad que el día 29 de abril, domingo, a partir de la 1 de la tarde, se va a llevar a cabo un evento en el cementerio, observando o celebrando el evento que ocurrió el día 14 de abril del 1912, la tragedia que ocurrió cuando el barco Titanic se hundió en el medio del mar Atlántico, y como él ha indicado, ahí en el cementerio Woodlawn se encuentran 12 de los difuntos que fallecieron en esa tragedia, están enterrados ahí, y el día 29 de abril, por un precio de $15 por persona, $10 para aquellos participantes maduros, o sea, los senior citizens, como le llaman ahora, y para estudiantes también una tarifa de $10. Pero va a haber un seminario que se va a presentar ese día, además de un paseo por el cementerio, donde los van a llevar a ver las tumbas en realidad de los que fallecieron en esa tragedia, y también una recepción siguiente al paseo a través del cementerio. Eso es de 1 a 4 el día 29 de abril, domingo, en 2 semanas, para mantenerles informados.
Gracias.
What other, you mentioned something about a jazz event that's coming up.
Well, of course, we have many jazz greats, from Duke Ellington to Lionel Hampton, Miles Davis, Max Roach, Illinois Jacquet, and of course, the queen of them all, Celia Cruz.
All buried
at Woodlawn. And June 8th, here at Lehman College,
Okay.
In the Lovinger Theater. We're having two big bands. The Mercedes Ellington's Duke Ellington Center Band, big band,
Okay.
and multi-Grammy nominated Bobby Sanabria's big band.
Wow.
So we're going to have two big bands, June 8th, Lovinger Theater here at Lehman College, 7:30, and tickets are $20 per ticket.
And June 8th, I think, is a Tuesday?
June 8th is a Friday.
Friday.
Yes.
A Friday, okay. Otro evento que se va a llevar a cabo aquí en Lehman College, en el Teatro Lovinger, el día 8 de junio. Viernes 8 de junio se va a llevar a cabo un evento de la música de jazz, celebrando algunos de los maestros más famosos de ese tipo de música, inclusive Duke Ellington, entre ellos, y el maestro de la orquesta de Bobby Sanabria, el cual ha sido nominado múltiples veces para un Grammy Award. También estará presentando su orquesta aquí esa noche, el día 8 de junio, aquí en el Teatro Lovinger en Lehman College, empezando a las 7:30.
7:30.
A las 7:30 de la noche. So, as far as the tours of Woodlawn is concerned, are these tours regularly open to the public? Do they happen on a regular basis? How does that work?
Well, we have diversified our programming. We've increased our programming and made it throughout the year for the most part, and it is open to the public. We offer a number of free events throughout the year as well.
Okay.
And anyone and everyone are welcome.
But the tours are free?
No, the tours. Most of the tours and the activities, the programs, the concerts. We had an Easter egg hunt.
Okay.
The day before Easter, the Saturday before Easter, and that one was $5 per family. So big families come.
A lot of participation.
Over 220 some people were there.
That's great. Just to ask, is it strange when you have events such as that held at a cemetery?
Well, again,
is there anything ghoulish about it?
It goes back to the idea that Woodlawn is much more than just a cemetery. Yes, it is a sacred place.
It's a garden.
It's a garden. It's a park. It's a place where we celebrate the lives of those who are buried there.
And that's really a great way of putting it, because regardless of the fact if you are a very, very famous person who might be buried there, such as Celia Cruz, for example, or you are someone who does not have that notoriety, to someone else, that person was very famous, was very important, and does leave a history behind.
Of course.
And for that person, their survivors have every right to celebrate that life as well as the life of those who had a lot of notoriety and a lot of celebration in many other ways during their lifetime. What I'd like to do is close out our show by showing, of course, our viewers the contact information, the website, and just where they can go to find out more about Woodlawn and perhaps participate in one of the tours and go and see this incredible setting in the Northeast Bronx at the end of the number 4 train, and walk over and take a look at this place. Thank you so much for being with us, for sharing time and the information that you've given us. And you're welcome to come back anytime.
Thank you. It's certainly my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Y televidentes, a ustedes les doy las gracias por mantenerse sintonizado por esta edición de Diálogo Abierto. Lamentablemente se nos ha acabado el tiempo por hoy de esta edición.